The Guns on Pegs podcast is brought to you by ITAP Group. Hello and welcome to the Guns on Pegs podcast. I'm George Brown.
I'm Avian.
I'm Jake. And I'm Sam.
Well, hello, gentlemen. Have you been well?
Hot.
Too hot. Stop it.
We're not built for 30 plus degrees down here, are we? It's outrageous.
Well,
no, enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make the most of it. But let's get straight into it. It is hot. Let's have a drink. Avian, since you moaned the loudest, what cooling beverage have you got this evening?
I'm the biggest, and hot doesn't agree with larger chaps, but I have gone very much with the weather. I'm having a little glass of Provençal rosé.
Perfect. Lady Petrol, is it one we would have heard of?
Absolutely not. It's the special. No, it's the special from M&S. It's not chuntering bitch. It's very pleasant. Very nice. Nice and chilled. I might have to have another one of these.
Perfect. Very nice. Jakey?
I am on a standard gin and tonic, just a Gordon's gin.
Good man.
It's just refreshing. Not too bad at all. Sam, what do you got, bud?
I'm doing West Country beers again, and I've got a Otter Bright, because I don't think I've had an Otter Bright on the podcast before. I've had an Otter Amber, and I believe a Otter Headers featured with maybe Tarquin.
Could have been, yeah.
So I've got that. That's been sat in the fridge all day, waiting for this evening.
Wring its neck, Samuel.
So that will disappear very swiftly.
Very nice. Following the success of my Damson gin and tonic last time we recorded together, this time I have got a slow gin and tonic, just to compare and contrast. I'm doing science. This is for science.
Good.
And this is the Holland & Holland slow gin with Fever Tree tonic, and it is excellent. Almost exactly the same, as far as I can tell, as the Damson gin and tonic. But it's cold and wet and long, and therefore excellent. And I'm very pleased with it. So yes, I will be having more than one of these throughout the recording.
I think that there's a bit of a theme going there with these sort of the hedgerow spritz, isn't it?
Do you think that could be the next big thing next year?
I think it could be. Why not? Let's make it the next big thing. Hedgerow spritzes.
Just seen you take a swig of that one, George. Is it in a pint glass?
Yes, it is.
Good man.
I didn't actually fill it all the way to the top, but I wanted one that was large enough that I could have lots of ice and lots of drink.
Yeah.
Excellent stuff.
Good. Well, anybody been doing anything fascinating of late? What have we got to report before we move on to the meat?
Well, I've been tractoring. I know when we were at the game fair, I fell in love with the idea of a mini tractor. But I haven't been able to manage to get hold of one. But last year on our little shoot, we tried to do the cover crop. Actually, I think it's something we should start marketing, is that every day we decide to do our cover crops is the hottest and driest day of the year. So I think we should rent that information out to show organisers and summer weddings and that sort of stuff.
The Met Office.
Yeah, well, they probably couldn't tell you what it was like yesterday.
Farmers could pay you not to put cover crops in so that there's an increased chance of rain.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We could put a notice out on social media and say, we are doing our cover crops. And everybody can either go out into the sunshine, go to the beach and have a lovely time, or not farm or anything like that. But this year, and I must give a great big shout out to Will May at Celtic Drilling. Last year we had to do it with hand rotivators, and it was like basically trying to get through a concrete slab with a blunt spoon. And we suffered misery trying to do it. So I put a note out on some of the shooting groups on Facebook, a real cry for help. And Will came onto the site and said, well, we've got one we use on our farm. If you can arrange to pick it up, you can use it for a couple of days. And it just bashed through it. We managed to get a local chap with the tractor to come up, and I just sat there in the mule with a nice cold beer and watched them work. I love watching other people work. It's very cathartic.
It's my favourite pastime.
It's brilliant. But yeah, I think it just made me start thinking that a lot of small shoots don't tend to communicate with each other. They tend to be a little insular and don't have much contact with other guys in the field. And this just made me realise all of the shoots have got a little bit of knowledge, or somebody who's good at something, or a bit of equipment, or just some local information and, you know, where they can get birds and feed from and stuff like that. I think it'd be great if people did that more.
You could just have a sort of little local DIY syndicate WhatsApp group, couldn't you?
Absolutely. Just little things that come up. And I think it'd also be good for security, because I think big estates tend to have people on the ground most of the time, whereas us, the little shoots, you know, there are a lot of people out there looking to stamp on arson traps and badger culls and all the rest of it, and we tend to tear the brunt of it, and we're least able to rebuild and restart. And so maybe for the security, a little shoot watch scheme, a bit like pub watch or neighborhood
Well, I
watch.
guess you could also share sort of foxing duties and that kind of stuff as well, couldn't
Definitely.
you?
Well,
You know, I'm out tonight, boys. Anybody want me to whiz round kind of thing?
Yeah.
Round here, guys, all the gamekeepers are in a WhatsApp group. So exactly what you just said.
Yeah.
But also we're inundated with coursing.
Yes.
So when the coursers are out, they just ping into the WhatsApp, so-and-so here, so-and-so there. I'm in a spot of bother. Could I get a couple of people quickly? They will go to that point.
Yeah.
Police en route, that type of thing. It's a very good thing to do. So you're not reinventing the wheel, but I would definitely reckon that around your area, Ave, get a community group via WhatsApp and you will find it brilliant.
Well, Sam, how about you?
I've been busy with sim days, definitely too hot. And I should have mentioned it on the last pod, thinking about it. But the trouble is we didn't record the last one in May, but it came out in May, and we're recording this one in May, and it won't come out till June. But I am doing 50k in May for Sands charity. I'm sure when this comes out on Tuesday, you'll still be able to donate to my lovely running exploits.
I'm sure they will. I saw your story today, which said something about your nipples, which I then immediately blanked from my memory.
My running career hasn't been that vast, but it was the first occasion I've ever experienced nipple chafing.
It's painful. Well,
Yeah.
It doesn't hurt when it's there because you're in the moment and stuff. And I remember the first time when I had nipple chafing was running a half marathon in South Africa in Hermanus. And people were looking at me and I was like, yeah, okay, fat lad, English lad running in Hermanus, you know, it's fine. And then the lady kind of wrapping a space blanket around me at the end and said, you know, is everything okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. And I looked down to my T-shirt and it was a white one and it was just red. And I got in the shower afterwards.
You're not selling running.
This
here.
won't sell running.
475 not to go running.
Not to go running, yes.
But good luck when you jump in the shower, buddy. But it does get better.
It does, does it?
But no, 50k in May, very impressive.
You've done really well, Sam. Where are you up to now, mate?
As we record this, I'm up to 41, and I've got, all being well, a 10k planned for the weekend, which will take me over 50k. So that should be done, unless I break my leg between now and then, which hopefully won't happen.
Where can people find the donation page and all the details?
To be fair, if you just go on Sands and donate, I'm not taking any glory from it being through me, but I'm putting quite a lot on Instagram at the moment about it. So you'll find it there, and there's a link to it on my bio. I think we call it, don't we?
Yeah,
we
link
do.
in bio. That's exactly it. Sands is an epic charity, and it's so supportive to all parents out there. So rung strong.
Yeah, and hopefully it'll be a bit cooler on Saturday when I do my last bit.
Yes, I think it is.
Are you going to do it in fancy dress or maybe do it in tweeds and garters?
I mean, it might be in fancy dress by the fact that I've got plasters on my nipples underneath my T-shirt.
Yes.
Nipple tassels.
Yes.
You spin me right round, baby.
I tell you what, George, if you donate £100, I will wear nipple tassels on my last kilometre and film it just for you.
I think I might do that.
Yeah, I think we could probably just take your word for it. I don't think we need film of that, do we?
Oh no! If I'm giving him 100
All right,
quid,
okay,
I need video
100
evidence.
quid. Yeah.
You're also going to have to give me some nipple tassels.
You're a farmer. Improvise.
Bailing twine.
I don't stick out that far.
They will do by the time you've done 50k, mate.
Yeah.
George, what about you? What have you been up to? Have we got a partridge update?
The partridges are all doing very nicely, getting bigger, getting feathered up. They're hungry, they're lively, they're doing great. I've done a bit of fishing. I've got some more fishing lined up, but I'm not going to talk about that until the next episode, which I'm recording with Chris, mainly because I want to give him a hard time. So I'm just going to keep that powder dry. But what I did think we'd have a chat about today is a rather more relaxing activity than all this running, because, as we have mentioned, it's warm. Summer's here. And the best way to use a sunny summer afternoon, I think, is to find a shady spot and a good book or a good audio book and get tucked into that, or a good audiobook when you're buzzing around on the ride-on mower or whatever. So I thought we could use our collective knowledge to share some books that we think would make good summer reading for listeners to the Guns on Pegs podcasts. But before we start, are you big readers, guys, or is it something that you do very occasionally? What's your relationship with the written word like?
I used to read a lot. I used to read 2 or 3 books a week when I was commuting up in town. I've fallen into the trap a little bit now of finding it difficult to make the time to sit down and spend a couple of hours reading, but I buy a lot of books, if that counts.
Yeah, the intent is there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Jake, what about you?
I struggle with reading. I'm as dyslexic as they come. So sitting down and actually taking that in, words jump. Mind rushes off at a million miles, and I've got to think about every kind of sentence, every word. It's cool to have, but yeah,
do you
an audiobook? Yeah, do you know what? I absolutely love an audiobook, and I think they're a revelation. So sitting on the tractor, like you just said there, George, a ride on or up and down topping, it's perfect. You can actually enjoy these novels, and you can feel like you can be part of a conversation. Like this evening, my books will be audiobooks, but normally I wouldn't be able to join this because people say, "Oh, I've read this book." I'm like, I just cannot get around it. So yeah, I struggle with it, but it's one of those things, really.
And Sam, how about you?
I'd be a cross between Avian and Jake in that I like having books, although I don't have a massive library, but I never find the time to sit down and read a book properly. So an audiobook's good, even though I kind of flip in and out of it a bit. But I've got some nice other books that you can kind of, spend 5 minutes reading a bit of, and it doesn't matter if you don't pick it up again for another 2 weeks. So I like the idea more than I get round to doing it, as it were.
Yes. Well, I think that's true of nearly everybody. I think nearly everyone thinks they ought to read more. Yeah. I have always had a very good relationship with books, but like all of you, finding time to read is really tough. And in fact, I've just finished a book that I bought nearly a year ago and started reading about 9 months ago. And only when I was on holiday a couple of weeks ago did I actually go, right, I'm going to, when we're sitting on the beach, I'm going to read this damn thing. And I was so pleased that I did. So I think we should get into it. And so what I've done is I've asked each of you to bring along 3 suggestions that you think other people who listen to this podcast might enjoy. So not necessarily field sports books, but maybe with a field sports or conservation or rural angle of some sort. So I've asked you to bring a fiction, a non-fiction, and a wild card where you can choose sort of anything you like, or it can be a bit out of the ordinary or whatever. So, Jake, as the one who suggested you have the hardest time with things, let's go with you first. Let's start with your non-fiction selection.
Fair play. So, getting into shooting, I realised very quickly I wanted to know a little bit more, especially when I took on Branches Park and just being able to communicate a bit better behind the scenes. So I found a really good audiobook called The Practical Guide to Modern Gamekeeping by Jeremy Hobson. It's not long. It's like a double podcast, really. But the thing which I found it gave was genuine insight into what keepers like their day-to-day, anything from habitat management right through to predator control, but it simplified it and it allowed me to actually have a bit of an understanding. And it was modern. It was written 2021, 2022. And it left me thinking, actually, people that don't know about shooting could pick this book up or this audiobook and listen to it and get a bit of an understanding, because it's not preachy, but it allows you to actually see everything outside and behind the scenes and outside the day of shooting. So I really liked it, and I thought this was a perfect one to share with everyone listening.
And is it sort of aimed at the amateur keeper, or like who do you think the intended audience for that book is?
You know what? I kind of went into it as the amateur keeper. I left after listening to it thinking this is definitely aimed to someone starting, let's say, Sparshot.
Right.
That kind of level, like it would be on the reading list. And if it's not, it should be. But it's also one for the amateur syndicate. Like, okay, I want to do this. I want to have a conversation with my gamekeeper. I don't want to sound like a complete idiot by saying, how many birds do you release every year? And, but it's one of those where I think it also allows you to then go and ask the questions and look deeper in. So then you can look on, let's say, Scribehound, for example, George. You can then have a little bit more, and it's a platform to jump onto.
Yeah.
A really good listen. Highly recommend it.
And a sort of foundational text. Really good.
Yeah, definitely. So that was my non-fiction chaps.
Perfect. Very nice.
Excellent.
Okay, how about a fiction then, Jake?
Okay, so as I mentioned, I'm not a big reader. So I found this audiobook called The Shooting Party by Isabel Colgate.
I know it well.
Do you?
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay, so I wasn't sure if everyone would know it, if it was a popular one, but when you look for books, and especially as a non-reader like myself, then everything's Wilbur Smith, who is cool and great, but I wanted something a little bit away. And the thing I liked about this was set in 1913.
Yeah.
And it was that Edwardian aristocratic kind of lifestyle. It's not a really fast kind of up-tempo crime novel, thriller, kind of sci-fi.
Although it is a crime novel.
Well, it is. Yeah, spoiler alert. But I love the camaraderie behind it. And I love the fact that it's all relatable to how we shoot today. And I walked away thinking how each individual character was different in their motives, but they were all about to embark on something life-changing. And that was in 1914 when we went to war in World War I, and then changed society, then changed how we look, that whole kind of thing. But yet again, we are still shooting like Edwardians. We're still having the same conversations. Yeah. But the camaraderie, the banter, and the seriousness behind conservation. So, yeah.
I'll tell you the other thing that's great about it as a novel. I found it on my parents' bookshelf many, many years ago. And one of the appealing things about it is it's what's referred to as a slim volume. It's not a whacking great thing. So it's quite a quick read if you decide that you want to read it rather than listen to it. It's not a great hefty, it's not War and Peace. And so you can rattle through it. I think I read it in a couple of afternoons sort of thing.
Yeah, so you can actually watch it on YouTube. The BBC did an adaptation of it in 1985. The actors are great and they will be recognised. It's very, very differently made to how modern day TV.
I think it's not AI slop anyway.
Yeah,
definitely not.
Well, I tell you what, I think, and I don't know if this is true or not, but I am almost certain that it inspired, if not was directly responsible for, Gosford Park, which is one of my favourite movies of all time. It's one of those sort of classic kind of country house English movies in which people walk into rooms and say, oh, I didn't realise you were in here, and then walk out again, and then someone dies. It's got the most incredible cast and proper kind of ensemble cast movie, Gosford Park. So that's another one that you could add to your list. If you read the book or listen to the book, then watch the BBC adaptation, and then watch Gosford Park. It's hours of entertainment with almost nothing happening. It's tremendous. Okay, finally then, Jake, your wild card.
Okay, so this is slightly going to go left field, but I found it very helpful in life and in shooting. So it's The Chimp Paradox by Professor Steve Peters. It's probably been the most useful book I've listened to, and I found it very, very beneficial. It looks at that fascinating emotional side within us all of our chimp, as he describes it, which is our primal, and then our adult, and how you deal with that reaction in kind of modern day life, and then how you actually should adult that situation. It goes deeper into planets and blah, 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 but we won't get into that. But on a shoot day, what I find is that there's so much going on. There's beaters and there's guns and there's questions and there's food and there's everything of a shoot day, and your chimp is heightened. You are frustrated. We've seen keepers absolutely dress people down. We've got frustrated ourselves. There's so many different emotions. But what I've found is by understanding that emotion of calming the chimp, not ignoring the chimp, but remembering you're adult. And I now have a picture of you guys all imagine me just walking around like a massive ape. And
I'll tell you what, mate. Next time I'm shooting with you, I'm bringing bananas.
But for me, I found communicating with team members at work, but also on the shoot day.
Yeah.
I've certainly the last 4 years, I found it a really good book, and I highly recommend it. I think it's £6 on Amazon, something like that. And it is just one of those books that you can sit there, listen to. That's my wild card, chat.
Interesting.
Brilliant.
Actually, George, thanks. I've really enjoyed that. I was really nervous. Thanks.
Well, it's over now, Jake. You can relax. Have a drink.
I know he's going to come in with absolute withering criticisms of our recommendations.
No, I think they're really good suggestions. And yeah, The Shooting Party is a great book. And yes, I highly recommend that also. Right, Sam, how about you? Let's start with your fiction.
So my fiction is a bit of fiction and non-fiction mixed together.
Okay.
It's
by Boris Johnson.
No, because you said I wasn't allowed to mention any books that I haven't actually read.
Or that anyone's actually read.
I was given this book, and it's like 550 pages long. So it sat on the bookshelf for a long time because it's thicker than a Bible. I thought there's no way I'm ever going to read that until I did realise that it's actually a collection of very short, like one-page things. It's called Fishing and the Meaning of Life by Jeremy Paxman.
It's fabulous. I love that. Absolutely love that book.
Yeah.
It's one of the best toilet books ever, I think.
That's exactly it, because you can pick it up, kind of just thumb along to a page, read a couple of them, and then just put it down.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be committed to it. It suits my lifestyle perfectly.
So it's a collection sort of selected by Jeremy Paxman, is it? So he's not written all of it?
Yeah, selected by Jeremy Paxman. He's written some of his own in there, but it's stuff that he's taken from other people.
Now, again, for the wonderful audio medium of podcasting, I can see that you've got the book there. I think my copy is probably a thinned-down paperback version. Not for now, but could you have a look? Because there's a short story I've been trying to track down for donkey's years that's in the back of my head, and I thought it was in Paxman's book, but it's not in my copy. But there's a story about a father and son who live, I think, on the Misty Fens, and the story is he goes out first thing in the morning with his dad in a little rowboat or a coracle or a creel or something, and they're collecting bream bubbles to go in spirit levels.
Wow.
And they talk.
I don't know what I was expecting, but it was not that.
But it's just
I won't look for it now, like you say. But
it's a magical, slightly mystical tale, and the premise of it is that there are different bubbles suit different size spirit levels, and breams are good, and tench are too fiddly. It's a lot better than I'm making it sound, trust me. But I can't find it anywhere. So if it's in that book, let me know. But if anyone out there in audio podcast land has ever heard of that, please email the pod at gunsonpegs.com and let me know. I will track it down. Otherwise, it was probably just a fever dream. Sorry, Sam.
That's all right. But I think you've actually probably just summed it up perfectly, that it is just full of funny little stories, anecdotes, bits like that, some that you can really relate to. It's about fishing, which I think most of us on this podcast love. You know, I'll confess, I absolutely love going fishing, and I'm potentially a worse fisherman than Chris Horn. Not that we could ever tell him that.
You just did.
But
it's all right, man. He doesn't listen to this. No, he doesn't listen to these. No.
It's more, fishing for me is fuck all to do with catching fish. It's nice that when you're not out there, you can almost just spend 10, 20 minutes and read something that almost puts you back.
Very nice. Right, okay. So a non-fiction one then, Sam?
My non-fiction, it turns out, is basically the same as Jake's non-fiction, but from 140 years before.
You don't like all the modern stuff?
No, I don't want that modern rubbish. I think we've spoken about it before. Whether we've spoken about it before on the pod or not, I don't know. But it's called The Badminton Library, which is by Lord Walsingham and edited by His Grace the Duke of Beaufort. It's basically a book that covers game shooting, different practices, advice, identification of species, bags, different stories, how your grouse butt should be set up, just kind of everything. It's one of those you can just pick up, read a bit and think, wow, they shot a lot of woodcock in the 1880s and put it back down again. So it's quite nice. And there was one bit in there I read recently, well, actually after me and Avian came back from our black grouse lecking, they're basically saying the same thing that we're saying now about a grouse lek, that we find it absolutely fascinating and we don't know why the hell they do it. and why they picked the spot and bits like that. And I just thought that's quite cool that we're still of the same mindset as we were back then with some things. A lot of things have progressed in game shooting, but some things are still very much the same. Which
with nature is still there. That's fascinating. Where did you come across the book, Sam? How did you end up with it?
This book was given to me. There's a chap who lives in Collerton called Gordon, who comes down probably once a month on a Sunday morning and has a cup of coffee and talks about shooting and what's coming up in the next Holt's auction. And he brought it down one day and he said, just have that, and gave it to me. And it was one of those I kind of chucked on the side and thought, old book, probably won't read it. And actually I just keep on picking it up and flicking to a different page and reading that bit. And it's, again, the same as my fishing one that you can pick up, read a bit, put back down again, and you don't lose anything. You don't lose any storyline or anything like that. So it's quite nice.
Okay, and your last selection and the wild card?
My wild card is a book that I haven't finished, but I'm more than likely going to finish because it's being read to me in audiobook form, is Matt Ridley's book, Birds, Sex and Beauty, which I started listening to when I was driving up to Yorkshire to Matt Ridley's moor and see the black grouse lek. So I'm about a third of the way through that at the moment, which is just... I love it.
It's so good, isn't it?
It is.
So, Avian, you've listened to it all the way through now, have you?
Yes. And I'm 2/3 of the way through reading it. I think Matt reads it better than I read it.
Hang on, you're saying that Matt is better than your internal monologue?
But I think the way...
Are you offering to read it to me instead of Matt?
No, I'm absolutely not doing that. I think because there's a large portion of the book that goes quite deep into genetics and Darwinian theory and sex selection versus genetic selection. So that part of it is quite dense. And I think in audiobook form, Matt does a superb job of it. But I think when you're reading it, to really absorb it, you have to go back over bits and take it on.
Yes.
Yeah. When I've listened to a bit, I'll do the same as Jake if I'm out doing a bit of topping or mowing or something like that. I listen to some, and you're not 100% on it because you're concentrating on something else. So you almost have to listen to that bit again to, like you say, some of it's quite heavy to get it to actually sink in properly. But
I think Matt is absolutely showing off his scientific cojones because this is stuff he gets. In some ways, there are parts of it that are quite similar to trying to read Dawkins' A Selfish Gene, of density of background knowledge and science to it. But having said that, for people who maybe aren't too keen on the deep dive into that element of it, having listened to it before we went and saw the black grouse honestly made seeing the black grouse a far richer experience. Because rather than just looking out of a tent in the freezing arse cold in the middle of the night and just seeing these chickens bob around, you really feel that you're involved with it. I don't know if you found that at all, Sam, that you kind of recognised what the research over 200 years had started to establish about why they were there and what they were doing and what the whole purpose of it was.
Yeah. It is important to say, though, yes, there is quite a lot of science in there. And I think in some ways it sort of doesn't matter if it washes over you a bit, because it's sort of wrapped up in the narrative of the scientific understanding of what's going on as well. So yes, you get a lot of the you get a bit of science jargon every now and again, but mostly what you get is the story about the debates that were going on and how it shaped the debates around natural selection or sexual selection, and all of that packaged up with these fascinating little tidbits of natural history about all these different bird species that lek all over the world and how they differ and how they're similar and all that sort of stuff. So while there is the sort of hardcore genetics in there, I'd say 80% of it is not that.
Yeah, and I think it shouldn't be a challenge to reading it because, as you said, George, it does underpin it. But I think the other thing I got from it is that Matt Ridley must have had 100-page passports because he's been bloody everywhere.
But it brings back, for me, I mean, the two books and also listening to Matt's book, sometimes you can lose an edge of enthusiasm about things for whatever's going on. And just submerging yourself in something like that again almost reignites things a bit. So it's quite nice to have that read to you by Matt. Like you say, you don't have to take in all the scientific stuff, but his passion comes through with it so well that it just it almost just makes you more excited about stuff, if you know what I mean.
I completely agree with you. I think that it's something that we tend to forget in a world full of quick cut YouTube videos with dramatic music and all that sort of thing, we can forget that actually often it is the detail and the minutiae that has the most fascinating aspects in it. And certainly for me, having that kind of level of that depth of information goes a long way to deepening the enthusiasm I have for a subject, no matter what it is. And I think that the more you go into the detail, the more fascinating things become. And it's that whole Dunning-Kruger effect thing. The more you know, the more you are aware of your own ignorance, and the deeper you then want to go. And so I think that is a perfect example of it. Even if I don't fully understand all of the science, it's the sort of thing where I think, well, if I read another, but maybe I need to go and buy a book about genetics now so I can understand what that bit's about.
I think the other side, George, is, I mean, that fascinates me, and, you know, I'm interested in that, and having those stories come back and think, yes, I have heard of this. But I think the other side to it is it just really deepens your respect for the people who do go and count earthworms on a square mile of moorland for their entire lives. And just how those small pieces of very, very detailed, very dedicated research are compiled and added to and put together, and over time have created the picture we now have of how the natural world works, and how it's open all the time to being criticised and disproved and shown there's a difference.
Yes, it does open your eyes to, you know, we tend to think of science as being done by a man leaping out of the bath and shouting Eureka, having just worked it out. We're told that the structure of DNA came to them in a dream and all this stuff, or when they were out on a walk or something. But what we fail to understand, we tend to forget that most scientific discovery is the result of hours upon hours of painstaking field research and experimentation and, like you say, counting earthworms or whatever it may be. Good, great. Well, really good suggestions there, Sam, and I think we're all agreed on that Matt Ridley book. Highly recommended. This episode of the Guns on Pegs podcast is sponsored by Browning X-Bolt 2, a bolt-action rifle that combines technical prowess, adjustability, and ergonomics so you can live out your passion.
The Browning X-Bolt 2 allows you to choose from 4 barrel types and 4 different stock options. UK listeners will likely love the Nordic barrel, which is specially designed to accommodate a moderator, while the Veritech stock option, which features 4 internal spacers, a 32mm inflex pad for effective recoil absorption, an adjustable cheek piece for fast target acquisition, and interchangeable pistol grips, means you can set the gun up perfectly to match your shooting style. Basically means you can't miss.
I mean, I beg to differ. I can always find a way to miss.
I think this is therefore for someone like you. It gives you the best chance, doesn't it, George?
Yeah, and I need all the help I can get, especially when it comes to rifle shooting. But if you'd like to find out more about the Browning X-Bolt 2, just visit browning.eu. Right, Avian, over to you.
This was a really difficult one, just coming up with 3. When I was a kid, there were a lot of books I read that really, really exposed me to the countryside and sort of animals and the natural environment. I think, you know, they're the classics, Gerald Durrell Family and Other Animals. There was Gerald Summers, Owned by an Eagle, Tarka the Otter, and I think also the Jennings books by Anthony Buckeridge. I know when I was a kid, they always my parents, if I was naughty, would threaten me with boarding school. And then I spent most of my time reading stories about kids in boarding schools in the 50s having a lovely time. So I don't know quite where that came from. I think with Jennings, if anyone remembers them, he was the dashing young lad always getting in trouble. And in my head, I was Jennings, but actually his fat friend who lumbered along behind and picked up all the pieces, Derbyshire, was probably a bit more me. But
well, before you do,
I've
got to put in another good word. Gerald Durrell's My Family and Other Animals. I am reading to the kids at bedtime at the moment. And it's so good. It's so good. My favourite writers are the ones who make me laugh. And I had to stop several times in this evening's passage because I was giggling. And just the quality of the language is so funny. Anyway, carry on.
Well, fiction. I'll go fiction first. I thought I'd bring it up to date. My brother put me onto these. There's a book called Scoundrels. It's part of a trilogy, I think. I don't think a 4th one's come out yet. And it's an absolutely insane romp. It's told as an exchange of letters between 2 very aged but very cantankerous old majors, Major Victor Cornwall and Major Arthur Trevelyan.
Are they Cornish
and
by
it's
any
basically
chance?
the letters backwards and forwards. It's never really stated, but you might think they are. And I think it's one of the only books where the two characters are actually credited as the authors. But anyway, so these two have been lifelong members of the highly exclusive and infamous Scoundrels Club, which is...
They can't be Cornish if they've been members of an exclusive club.
Well, I don't know. The Six Finger Club? What are you saying,
And it says gentlemen.
Yeah, true. So, yeah, I mean, the Scoundrels Club is loosely based on a traditional English gentleman's club, but it's said to offer fellowship and acceptance for chaps whose blood runs hot and for whom normal life seems unbearably tedious.
That sounds like a fun club to be a member of.
Yes, very much so, very much so. So there's tales of outrageous daring do, and it's just hilarious. The two old majors hate each other but love each other dearly, and they're sort of, the letters backwards and forwards are remembrances of all the things they got up to in the club, and the club doubles as a den of espionage for the things that governments aren't allowed to do.
Interesting.
And there was a lovely little, it's very vulgar through it as well. There are all sorts of things you couldn't repeat even on this podcast. But just as a little quote, as overconfident 17-year-olds, Trevelyan and I were initiated into the Scoundrels Club. Lunk Senior immediately handed us an undertaking, club parlance for something that needs squaring away, putting right, or sweeping under the carpet. Little did we know it would mark the start of a long and illustrious career of lying, cheating, stealing, and skullduggery. Or to dignify it, espionage.
That sounds very good.
They are, I mean, I'm not a sit by the pool holiday person, but these are utterly perfect. Sit by the pool and cackle to yourself.
Great. They sound a bit sharp, a bit Bulldog Drummond, a bit flash.
Very much
Flashman,
a bit flash sharp.
They sound fantastic. Yeah. So there's 3 books in the trilogy. I also like a book where there's another one.
And it's also good that the second and third book aren't just on from the first. They actually reveal things that didn't make sense in the first. So I think they've been written with a trilogy in mind rather than this is a follow-on.
Cool. Yeah, they didn't write one and then think, oh, we're going to do that again. They almost had the trilogy made out before they published the first.
Yes, that's the feeling you get. But yeah, bloody
I'm
good
going to
fun.
look those out immediately. Very good. Okay. Non-fiction then, Avian?
Non-fiction, again, very practical, this one. It's a little pocket book. It's Gamebird Diseases, a Gamekeeper's Guide. Now, this definitely isn't a toilet book.
It doesn't sound like a holiday read either.
It's not a jolly one, but I have found it absolutely invaluable. It's only a small book. It's written by Alan Pearson, MRCVS, so knows what he's talking about. I think he's been a Gamebird vet for over 37 years. And it's just one of those things, if you're keeping poultry of any kind, but I think if you've got any responsibility for game birds, it's just an A to Z of the possible diseases that you might come across, the common ones and the not so common ones, and just some really practical descriptions of what you're seeing, so you've got an idea before you call in the troops, what you might be able to do yourself to sort the problem out, and definitely when you need to call professional help. And I think it's just one of those things just to have there, that if you see a bird with a sort of an eye weep or a bit of a mess somewhere, you've at least got somewhere to start. And I found it really, really useful.
And can you give us an example of when you've used it?
So we had a concern that, this was last year, we had a concern our birds were getting gapeworm. So in a fairly warm, quite humid spell, we had a few that were doing the classic sort of neck twisted back and beaks open. And we just went through the descriptions in the book, and it was about 3 out of perhaps 10 suggested issues the birds had, but they didn't have the others. So we then decided that it was, with the help of the book, that it was probably something in the water. So we cleansed the water lines, added some vitamin additive, and the birds were fine. So in that instance, it helped us solve a problem that was actually quite minor and avoided us running the flag up and having to worm all the birds and go through the expense and the problems that might cause.
That sounds like a very useful thing to have around.
Also makes you sound a little bit more clued up when you phone the vet and you're not trying to imitate what your bird is doing over the phone. You can say, it's doing such and such. I've looked it up. It could potentially be this. Am I right? Am I wrong?
I don't know, Sam. I would like to see the video call of Avian describing gapeworm to his vets.
If you've ever seen him about 3 o'clock on a Sunday morning, then
It'd be about like that. And doing it down the phone with all the actions as well. Yeah. As Sam said, hopefully it helps you avoid some of that humiliation.
Yeah.
But I think also if you have a general awareness of the major common ailments the birds might get, it helps you and anyone else who's out and about or helping with feeding, whatever. Just give them a little briefing and things 100%. To look out for.
Well, and also if you're reading that, it's going to tell you about how to prevent it.
Yes.
You're also then going to be, if you flick through that and you've picked up a few bits, you're going to be on the front foot then. You're going to think, oh, actually, we need to flush through the drinker lines every so many days to make sure that they don't get that. So you're also then doing preventative stuff rather than reactive stuff.
Yeah. Yeah,
very good. Okay, and your wild card then, Avian?
Well, my wild card, it's more of a coffee table book than anything else. And it's a little bit self-serving, but I do like a good book on modern and classic firearms. And when I bought my lovely second-hand FAMARs, I came across this book by Mario Abbiatico of Abbiatico and Salvanelli. And he did a book shortly before he died, Modern Firearm Engravings. And it's a beautiful thing.
Gosh, it's a hefty, great thing as well. You're not reading that on a sunbed.
It's not a one on the bus either. No, it's definitely a coffee table book. Mario Abbiatico, gunsmith in Brescia, had an absolute passion for engraving, which he shared very much with his wife as well. And the book just goes through sort of the background, the history of firearms engraving from very early 1700s up to current contemporary engraving, focusing mainly on the Italian houses and the Italian styles. And they had a lot of engraving in-house and supported quite a lot of engravers. And it goes through, the tools, the techniques, the apprenticeships, the training. It takes from the concept for the gun through the sketching, the amount of art lessons that the training engravers had to go through before they were allowed anywhere near engraving tools, right the way up to some of the most elaborately finished guns, particularly for the American market.
Yes.
With inlays and just different types of engraving, deep scroll engraving,
outlandish engraving.
There's a lot of big eagles.
I thought you were going to say something else then.
Stuff, but
there is one of those
sure
about, isn't there? Abe, is Ryan's gun in that book?
I haven't looked. I do need to talk to him just to see if it's there. I bought it because of what it was, and going through it, there are the sketches of the engraving that's on my gun are in there. So the original sketches by Rodolfo Balniari, except when one of the master engravers who did my gun, Claudio Tomasoni, did it, he kind of, whether the client who ordered the gun was blushing or not, but the pointer on my gun has certainly got smaller testicles than one in the drawing.
Right, okay.
It might have been cold.
Well, it might have been cold, or perhaps looking at the original sketch, it was probably designed for a side plate rather than
give it a rub. It'll be fine.
Absolutely. But no, I mean, it's a beautiful book to have, and it's one of those, you can read bits in it if you're interested. I don't think it's a sit down and read through, but it is just lovely to dip in.
It sounds like the sort of thing that on a rainy Sunday afternoon in the winter, with either a steaming cup of tea or a large glass of whiskey, you just quietly flip through before resting the eyelids for a bit.
Yes, it's quite nice as you're just letting the oil soak into the gun to let it dry out. Just have a little flip through. It's brilliant.
Very good. Well, what I like so far is we've had a really eclectic bunch of suggestions. I think it's really cool. Where did you come across that book, though? Is that something that you can just easily lay your hands on, or was it a lucky find in a charity shop or something?
It took a lot of searching, because when I bought the gun, a friend of mine as well, he's got a Poseidon, so he took me on to the manufacturers, and whilst I was waiting for the thing to be delivered, I had a bit of a panic attack and thought, shit, I don't know anything about these guns, what have I just done? So I started doing some internet research into it and just chased down this book, but obviously it's been out of print for many years, and I think I managed to find a collector who was selling one on a bookshop through Amazon, and there are 2 or 3 exceptionally good used sporting book companies. There's one based in Wales. I'll try and dig them up, actually, if anyone's interested. We'll put them on the
good idea
notes. But there are so many of these books, like Sam's book and this one, the one I recently bought on fishing as well. They're usually not much money, under a tenner. But there's some lovely old books out there. I think this one was a little bit more than that because most of them have gone to the States. But yeah, it was just internet searches and happenstance. Came across it and thought, must have it.
Excellent.
So, George, what are yours?
Well, like you, Avian, I did struggle a bit because there were lots of candidates. So basically what I've gone with is ones that I've consumed quite recently or have been on my mind recently. So the first is a book called Guns Wanted by J.K. Stanford. And the reason this has been on my mind is because I mentioned it in a Scribehound article recently when I was writing about my new Grey Partridge Folly. I think the reason it's so interesting to me is that not only is it a great book, and I'll come on to that in a minute, but quite big chunks of it are actually set on our farm. And if you know the place and you read the descriptions of the farmyard and various of the fields and that sort of thing, there's absolutely no question. There's also local villages that are very thinly veiled. So one of the villages is called Stoke Charity, and the village in the book is called Stoke some other virtue. I can't remember which virtue it is off the top of my head, but it's really very thinly veiled. I've always been fascinated reading books about places that I know is a lovely thing, and for it to actually be our family farm is very special. But the story itself is also great. It's about a retired officer after the Second World War, and his surgeon, his doctor, gives him, I think it's a year to live, something like that. His doctor is, and this is an example of the sort of standard of the humour, his doctor is called Gore Ambulance.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Do people rush in, slam doors
there's
and
quite
rush
a lot
out
of that,
again?
yes. It's a very funny satire with great characters. They're all kind of quite... They're almost caricatures, if you see what I mean. There's shades of P.G. Wodehouse and Evil in War. I mean, if you've read Decline and Fall, for example, you'll get that'll give you an idea of what the characterization is like and the people involved. But basically, after this diagnosis, which turns out to be inaccurate and actually an act of spite on the part of the doctor, he decides, as I think we probably all would in the situation, to spend as much time hunting, shooting, fishing as possible, and has a tremendous time. And it's
almost like Asteroid Day, then,
yes,
really.
It is. It's a very good point. It is an extended desert island shooting, and very well written and very entertaining.
I wonder where you got the idea to put the desert island shooting in, George. Yeah.
Do you know what? That comparison had never crossed my mind until just now. But now I shall go back and reread it and think about it in exactly those terms.
I must admit, I bought a copy of it through the second-hand book place, and it's on my list to read next. So I'm looking forward to it. It sounds from your description, it's almost a bit blot on the landscape.
It's not quite as farcical as that. You know, what's his name? Sharp, isn't it? Tom Sharp. That is pure farce and filth, as I seem to remember. This is not quite like that. This was written in 1947 or something like that, so it's rather more genteel. And it does slightly poke fun at the very concept of a let day or a syndicate and all that sort of stuff. It's slightly looking down its nose at the idea that anyone would pay for shooting.
I suppose it was of the time that was starting to happen.
At one point, someone turns up with a brand new over and under, which is obviously ghastly.
There must be something in the water down in your neck of the woods then, George.
So yeah, that's the one, and I highly recommend it. It is out of print, but there are second-hand copies readily available, and it's well worth having in your collection because it's a nice light read. The jeopardy is minimal, shall we say.
So where did you go for non-fiction?
So non-fiction, this is a book that I listened to recently, and I think audiobooks are tremendous, and actually most of the books I consume these days are audiobooks rather than sitting down to read, because as much as I do love that, it's hard to get anything done if you're reading. So I consume a lot of audiobooks when I'm doing things. This is a book called Wilderlands, The Human History of Wild Britain. It's a very recently published book by a lady called Eloise Kane. She is an archaeologist. And if you were to sum it up in one sentence, it's basically an archaeologist saying, what do we mean when we say wild anyway? Like, what is wild? What do we mean? What does it mean in the context of Britain? What has it meant? How has its meaning changed over time? And it's just an exploration of humans' relationship with, it's quite hard now to say with the wild, because basically the whole book is exploring this idea that it doesn't really mean anything. There's a lot of exploration of how we have changed landscapes, the impact that we have had on the behavior of animals, introductions, extinctions, landscape engineering, all this stuff.
That sounds fascinating. It's very timely as well, I think, isn't it? Because a lot of the things we hear about how in living memory we've ruined the environment and the countryside isn't wild anymore. I think it takes somebody of this sort of heft to actually go back and get the proof that this island has been managed in one way, shape or form for
definitely
a hell of a lot longer than current, maybe dare we say, left-leaning
and
thinking.
It goes back a really
long
way.
Us.
It goes back sort of pre-Stonehenge sort of time, Neolithic stuff. And I think people often underestimate the degree to which Neolithic populations had an impact on the landscape. I mean, obviously we have had it over the last, whatever it is, 12, 13,000 years, we have had a huge impact. But there is this idea that it goes around that there was a sort of pre-Lapsarian perfection that existed. And of course, that's a myth. And as you say, I think what's really great about this book is that she doesn't really have any skin in the game. She's not a campaigner for rewilding or a farmer or a shooting person or anything like that. You know, she's not part of that particular bit of the culture war, which means that it's quite even-handed. And I think, you know, so for example, there's not a huge amount in there on, for example, pheasant shooting. But I think if I were to have a guess, she'd probably be fairly skeptical about the benefits of releasing as many birds as are released. But equally, given that she's basically saying what is wild anyway, she pokes the idea of rewilding quite firmly as well. There's a lot in there about deer, as you would imagine, all that sort of stuff. So it's absolutely fascinating. Obviously, one reads it with an eye out for those sorts of things, but actually I think the best bits are often, again, with so many of these things where you're learning something that you didn't really know much about before. So there's lots of bits of her archaeology come into it and how that archaeology can be used to understand our relationship with the wild, which animals we were eating, which ones we weren't, for example, which ones turn up in the fossil record, which ones don't, and what you can infer from that, all that stuff.
I think that's fascinating. I think, again, the time scale, you know, there seems to be this feeling at the moment that things have pretty much existed in aspect as they should have been since the dawn of time, but misses the fact that a lot of the country was under a mile of ice 10,000 years ago.
Yeah.
And just how ancient is ancient, and all of these wilderness areas we see, all of the landscapes we see have been touched by humankind because it was pretty much a blank slate until the ice receded.
Yeah. Exactly. So I fully recommend it. Again, it's a very easy read.
That's brilliant.
It's not packed with complicated science, and it's told in a linear way. It starts really long time ago and finishes now. So it's not complicated.
Does it do any looking to the future or not?
A little bit, but mainly in the sort of, we've
Yeah.
obviously maybe taken things a bit too far and maybe we need to dial them back, but we've got to be careful when we think about that, because back to what? That's basically the argument. So yeah, it's great. Highly, highly recommended.
What about your wild card?
Right, so this one is a bit of an odd one, but it's the one that I finished on holiday a couple of weeks ago, and it's called The Great Auk, Its Extraordinary Life, Hideous Death, and Mysterious Afterlife, and it's by Tim Birkhead. Now, who knows what a great auk is?
Weirdly, I do. When I was at prep school, we had to give little talks at Founders Day. And there was a friend of mine, we were only 11, he gave a talk on the Great Auk and the extinction, and it stuck with me because it was the first time it dawned on me that animals other than dinosaurs went extinct.
Very good point. Yes. So it's a seabird. It's we should say was a seabird. It's a bit like a guillemot. And yes, they went extinct in about 1840, something like that. And basically, because they were big, flightless, fatty, and had eggs that you could steal quite easily, mariners would use them to stock up the supplies when they were doing the Northwest Passage or whatever. But then when people started to realize that they were becoming increasingly rare, people started collecting the eggs and the skins and what have you. They became a sort of desirable commodity if you were in that sort of Victorian collecting mania that they all had for natural history.
Yeah.
And so it tells the story of how they went extinct and that process, but then also the tale of the various specimens that then remained in existence, the people who collected them. And obviously amongst these obsessive collectors, there were some pretty weird characters. So there's a sort of human story, there's the nature story, but I think ultimately it's a cautionary tale about hubris and the unintended consequences of our actions. And actually that kind of, the saddest thing I think is probably that kind of spiral. It became rarer and therefore more desirable. And that is in the end what resulted in their extinction. Yeah.
But I think it goes back to Jake's book, The Chimp Paradox, doesn't it? That those base instincts in us all.
Quite.
Well, so yes, I highly recommend that. And the reason I was thinking of that, not only because I just finished it, but also because I had a suspicion that one of you boys would choose Matt Ridley's book. And I actually bought this book on the same day that I bought Matt Ridley's because they shared a book launch event. So I bought the two books at the same time, plowed through Matt's, and then put this other one on the coffee table next to my chair. And didn't look at it for ages. It was it's also, here's another, it's a very good coaster. It worked very well as a coaster for a really long time.
So it's a bask in the field.
Are there any we've missed, do you reckon, George? Because we've covered quite a few there, but I know you were kicking around a few ideas. What should be on there?
Okay, so let's start with Friends of the Show. Words from the Hedge by Richard Negus. Excellent book, hugely entertaining. Uncommon Ground by Patrick Galbraith. Really interesting exploration of the right to roam debates, very topical given some of the news stories this week.
And that's a great audio book.
It really is. Yeah, I agree with you.
Is it read by Patrick?
Yeah.
Yes.
In his own inimitable style. Then we have The Return of the Grey Partridge by Roger Morgan Grenville and Eddie, Duke of Norfolk. Another fantastic book, hugely influential on me. I suppose we better also say, in that same vein, Living with Greys by Tarquin Millington Drake, which is more of a coffee table number, beautiful photographs. And then I don't think we can get away without recommending John McNabb by John Buchan.
Yeah, it was on my list, but it's kind of that the Bible, isn't it?
You mentioned Tarka the Otter, which immediately made me think of Ring of Bright Water by Gavin Maxwell, which is a stunning book. Great film as well. Camusferno, which is where that's all set on the west coast of Scotland, is somewhere I spent a lot of my childhood. I remember grilling mackerel on his stove in his bothy there as a kid. Then the other one that I absolutely adored was Born Free by Joy Adamson. The story of Elsa the lion and all that sort of stuff, which is very out of Africa and very evocative and ultimately quite a sad story.
They're all quite sad, really, aren't they, unfortunately?
Well, I think maybe that tells us something about our relationship with the natural world at present. Has anybody else got any honourable mentions?
Not an honourable mention as such, chaps, but before coming on here, I spoke to Toby that I was doing this evening, and I wondered if, bear with me, each recommend a book to a younger listener. We're always talking about getting into shooting, what we're going to do. So here's my thought. George, could you give me a non-fiction book? Avian, could you give me a fiction? And Sam, can you give me a wild card? It can be anything, but something that you think that a youngster, let's go 10 to 18. What do you reckon?
Wild card, I'm going to recommend two by, and I can't remember who it's by. I've got them downstairs in the kitchen. I should go and get them. You had Venison and Feathers. So two cookbooks for game, basically, because I think that they are, because they're not just, was it Jose Suto?
Yes.
Because they're not just cookbooks. They provide history about them, ways to prepare them, everything from field to fork. So I think for a
great
wild
suggestion.
Card,
Ave, what about you, mate?
I think an upbeat and a not so upbeat. I would definitely go with Gerald Durrell, My Family and Other Animals.
Here.
I think it is just the most magical. It's that sort of time in history where you've got this young lad on Corfu where the whole world is open to him, and it was very much drink from the garden hose and don't come back till the sun goes down. And just how people were approachable and people were helpful, and you've got the madness of the family and the comedy and just that exposure.
Agreed.
That inquisitiveness about the natural world, I think just radiates out of that book. It's fantastic. And I think an absolute, slightly downbeat, but I think, again, a wonderful social narrative. Kestrel for a Knave,
100%.
or Kes. I think it's one of those books. I'd be interested to see how a teenager would actually deal with the social realities of the setting of the book, which I think was mid to late 50s, urban decay. The book's on so many levels, isn't it? On its surface, it is the harsh reality of living in a poor urban environment, but it's also the magic of wildlife. It's the coming of age book. It's the dealing with hurdles in your life, and they're all about trust. And there's so much to the book. I think the one thing that stuck with me is the scene where he's running up the hill to work, to school, sorry, and the milkman's there on his milk float and says, "Go on, hop on up, lad." And he says, "I'm not riding on that." And he just turns to him and says, "Third-rate riding beats first-rate walking any day." And that's always stuck with me. And you can stick your running up your bums.
And George, what about you?
Fiction series, the Red Wall books by Brian Jacks. There's hundreds of them. Great big doorstops of things. It's sort of Lord of the Rings, but mice. Is the best way I can describe it. The baddies are all weasels and the goodies are all hedgehogs and stuff, but they're proper sort of, not quite sword and sorcery, but certainly sort of knights and chivalry and what have you. I read all of them as a kid and loved them. Animals of Farthing Wood is a great book. Actually, interestingly, hunting is quite sort of gently worked with. There's a suggestion that the fox enjoys the hunt as much as the hounds, and this sort of stuff. I'm not entirely sure about, but I think were it to be written today, it would be a very different book. But actually, a lot of the sort of vague natural history that I have is from that book.
I think it's just something to set the imagination going, isn't it? Be inquisitive.
Yeah. But the non-fiction book I'm going to recommend is one that I still remember reading just before I first went to Africa. And it is called The Leopard's Tale. And it is all about, I don't know how many of you remember the Big Cat Diary that was on BBC.
Simon King.
Exactly, Simon King. And The Leopard's Tale was actually by one of the other blokes, Jonathan Scott, who was chat with the massive tash. And it's the story of his, journey with this leopard halftail, who was one of the stars of that show. Again, beautiful photography. Heaps of jeopardy, the leopard's disappeared, has she been eaten by a lion, what's going on, all this stuff. And it was one of the first moments that I really found myself excited about conservation. And I can only have been, I don't think I would have had the word for it at the time. I was probably 11 or 12.
Sure.
But it was, I don't even know if you can buy anymore. But if you can, it's a great book. And it's got, fantastic photographs and all stuff in it as well.
Epic. Sam, I've written down for the cookery books because that sounds perfect for Toby. But it's interesting how Ave and George, you didn't know I was going to answer this question. So from that, they're all books which have also impacted my starting. So we're all intertwined in all of this. Brilliant. And I think it's a wonderful suggestion. So nice one, men. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Better wrap this up, I think. Let's do any other business. Have we got announcements that we need to make?
Yes. The Sim Day. Come on, you garter wearers. There's a couple of places that have come up. And if you're available to join us at Stockton on the 26th of June, please get in touch, pod@gunsonpegs.com. Come and stay with us the night before. We're staying at a hotel just down the road. It's a wonderful day. It's your hotel plus £300 for the Sim Day. Get stuck in, open to garter members. Let's make this a really, really good one. We're all going, so let's have a really, really good day.
Good, excellent. From me, the Guns on Pegs game shooting census is live right now. It is the annual survey of the shooting world. It's super useful and important. The data gets used not only by Guns on Pegs to make the website better, but also by the likes of BASC and GWCT and the Countryside Alliance to help make the case for shooting in the corridors of power and understand what it is that people out there think. I completed the survey just before we started recording. It took me about 6 minutes in total. It takes no time. It's incredibly useful. It nearly always generates some really interesting stories as well. So go ahead and find that. It'll be available on the Guns on Pegs website somewhere or other. Any others?
just a couple of quickies from me. Royal Cornwall Show, 4th to the 6th of June, the Cornwall Showground up in Weybridge. I think there'll be somebody we all know from Guns on Pegs on the GWCT stand on Thursday, so make sure you pop up and have a look. And also the cider will be being judged.
Oh, cider judging.
Oh, yeah. So find out if we've got a gong or a please go away and don't darken this door ever again. And the last thing for me is it's just a wonderful butterfly year. We only see one or two usually. I have got literally hundreds of painted lady butterflies fighting in the garden. And I think just looking at the windscreen from doing a few trips down to Truro and back, last year was a mast year for the plants. It looks like we're having a bit of a bumper year for our little invertebrate friends, which is fantastic to see.
Loads of insects.
So many insects.
Loads of
I
insects.
can't keep up with it. Steam cleaning the front of my
And
truck.
mayfly dancing on the roof of the car the other day.
Well, yes, I shall talk more about mayfly in the next episode.
And I just want to jump in. I did say I was done, but next time, please remind me to talk about a trip that I made. And we've run out of time, so we're not going to talk about it today. But Sarah Roberts, I went to watch a documentary, The Hunt into the Grey. I went to the Cambridge showing. Remind me, chaps, because it
hold on to that, mate. No, I'm interested in that. That needs a bit of backwards and forwards. So yeah, stick that one in for next time.
Great. And as Jake says, we have slightly overrun. You're going to have to wait another month for a Grand's Day Out, I'm afraid. Thank you very much, chaps. That was phenomenal, really interesting. Some really great suggestions, and I hope people find them interesting and go out and buy the books and read them or listen to them or whatever. Before we go, all that remains for me to say is that there is a final reminder that you can get your hands on a pair of the very exclusive Guns on Pegs podcast shooting sock garters by sending us your shooting dilemmas for us to resolve, or by sharing your unpopular opinions or your forgotten drives or your podcast suggestions. Drop us an email to pod@gunsonpegs.com, and if we read it out in any future episode, we will send you some garters. For now, that's your lot. Do keep sending in your correspondence. Chris and I will be back in a couple of weeks' time. Our next guest is a young man who's been setting social media ablaze, Harry Hutchinson. But until then, thanks very much for listening, and goodbye.